What's up, guys? It's me again, Christian Rodriguez, and today I recently just finished this book. It's the Biography of Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. Right. I'm gonna put this down real quick. This right here is a great book. I highly recommend you read this. But I'm gonna talk about my takeaways from the book. Right, and I even set up some notes for you guys, so you guys are ready for this. Right, so you guys are ready to hear about it. But the first thing that stood out to me from reading this, right, which wasn't too much of a shocker because I kind of expected it, right? But it's his intensity and mindset, right? He was not I would say he was not this book definitely didn't hold back how much of a not of a nice guy he was. He was, at least based on what everything that I read, he was kind of a douche, but he was also a genius, right? And he was also very intense, right? In building Apple and Pixar. He had a vision. He made sure the team had a vision. He made sure he actually says it. He says, "I want A players on my team. I don't want B players." Right? Like he really instilled a culture in Apple, right? He really, even if the people didn't like him in Apple, they believed in something. He made them believe in something bigger than themselves, right? Which is what led to Apple's success, even Pixar as well, right? And I know people know Steve Jobs for Apple, but he also built Pixar. Pixar, which is that if you've seen a lot of animated movies growing up, Pixar has been a lot of them, like Toy Stories, right? That was created by a company that Steve Jobs owned. But another thing that really stood out to me, right, was his attention to small details, right? Even the invisible parts in the computer, right? When they were first building the first Macintosh, they had like one of the boards of the computer. They were about to put it in, and he says, "No, I want it to look perfect. I want it to look very nice." And I, one of the one of the tech guys was just like, the Apple guys was like, "But no one's gonna see it." He's like, "It doesn't matter. Every part of the computer needs to look nice." And the reason why he's obsessed with that because of his father. His father, who was a blue collar worker, told them that, um, and that really sat with him. And I don't think so the takeaway from this, right, is he was a perfectionist, right? He was very obsessed with the small details of things, right? And the thing is, he was very minimalistic, but he loved the small details of things. And the thing is, of his products, the small details that he perfected, that he made look nicer, right? Eventually made a bigger impact because it made his products stand out. Do you understand? Especially compared to other products. And my takeaway from it is this can also play in business, right? You have your own business and you have some sort of product that, or you have a service and you do some, say, you do a little detail, like you have a really good customer service, for example. That's the first thing I could think of right now. You have really good customer service, right? And like an industry that people don't expect good customer service. Suddenly it becomes a big thing because you stand out. That's just an example of it. That's the way I was able to connect it. But the next point that really stood out with me with this book was his passion, right? He had a passion for Apple, but he wasn't doing it for the money, right? And that's the thing, right? His main motivator was his creativity, and he wanted to create the next groundbreaking um, product, right? That's all he wanted to do, right? And he almost it almost sounded like he was in love with creating these things, right? Like even on his deathbed, when Tim Cook visited him in the hospital, and so Jobs that entire day before Tim Cook's arrive, Jobs was being cranky. He was being like mean to people, right? He's being mean to the nurses, even his family. once Tim Cook joined him and he started talking about Apple, apparently his face lit up and he got passionate again and he got energy to talk about Apple, right? So that's like he wasn't doing it for the money. And the thing is, MJ DeMarco actually says there's a quote from another book that I've read, The Millionaire Fastlane, right? He says, if you do anything for money, you'll grow to hate it. And that makes a lot of sense. Imagine a business that you're probably going to work 10 to 12 hours a day. You'll probably grow to hate it if it's not something you're somewhat passionate about, right? And I also don't want to say that money isn't important because there might be some people watching this video who are like, yeah, man, I agree. Money is not everything. And yeah, sure, money's not everything, but oxygen isn't everything. What else? Water isn't everything, but we kind of need it, right? We need it in abundance to survive. We need food, right? Food isn't everything, but we kind of need it. So don't think that money isn't everything. So just because I say that to be passionate about it, passionate about your business, I'm not saying money isn't important. Money's pretty fucking important. Okay? So I'm just going to go on there just so people don't misinterpret me. All right, so the next point is his proactivity and innovation, right? He was very proactive. He was very, very proactive. He was always thinking of what's next. What can we improve on, right? He was always thinking of the next thing. When they created when they were doing well with the iMac, right? They're like, we need to get a smartphone. We need to get into the smartphones. They ended up creating the iPhone. They also ended up creating the iPad, right? They ended up, and then even when he was dying in his deathbed, he was thinking of the next products he's going to start when he's out of the hospital or when he's feeling better. He was already thinking of what he's going to do next. That's insane. Like, most people on their deathbed would not be thinking of that. He was obsessively thinking of Apple and what he's going to do next when he gets out, when he feels better, right? That's really impressive, right? And even with Pixar, right? Right, with Toy Story, that was their innovation. Like he thought of it like, oh, why don't we make a story about, why don't we make something about toys that we make like a very because he was very big with his attention to detail. So even making an animated film on toys, making it like cinematic, it was something that was eye catching. It was something that was kind of new for the time. It was something that was very. Even Disney was like never did something like that before, so it really worked well with Pixar, and that's what led to the success, right? So then the next thing, right, was this kind of like a spectacle that he would do with Apple and Pixar, right? And with Apple and Pixar, right? When I say spectacle, I mean like everything was a spectacle. If you walk into an Apple store, right? The place is huge, it's modern, it's minimalistic. It's just very eye-catching. It's very nice. You want to walk in. Even if you're not going to buy anything, you just want to walk into the Apple store, right? And he's not stupid. He knew the Apple store, even if it costs more, has to be in the center of the city. It has to be in the downtown area, in the main road of the city, right? Because they asked, they're like, oh, we could do it somewhere in the middle of nowhere because the real estate's cheaper. He's like, no, I want to do it in the center of the city, in the downtown area, because he wants Apple to be seen. He wants it to be have a spectacle for it, right? And it's the same thing with Pixar. The Pixar office was created a certain way, right? Especially with the stairs, to have it stand out, right? And same with the Apple office, the Apple campus, right? And another thing, the product launches. The product launches wasn't just like a one. It wasn't just like, oh, we came out with the iPhone. That's it, the commercial. No, he made it a giant spectacle. He got on stage. People were clapping for him. He would unveil it like if it was his big thing, look at the next iPhone, and all of a sudden everyone will get up and start clapping and be amazed, and there'll be millions of people watching on TV. Like he made Apple like such a huge spectacle within itself. And if you read the 48 Laws of Power, Law 37, create a compelling spectacle, Jobs was the master at doing this, at using this, right? And the next thing is simplification, right? Focusing, right? So cutting out noise, right? When after Jobs was ousted, right? And he rejoined Apple, which was failing, right? Under John Scully. John Scully was a Pepsi guy. Like he was a CEO of Pepsi. Like he's a business guy. He's a traditional business guy, but he's not like an innovation tech guy, right? So with their product lines, right? They had like so many different Macs. They had like several different products, right? They had like 15, 20, 30 different products, and there was just confusion, right? And Jobs went in and he cut it down to basically three key products. He's like, screw the other stuff. Let's just focus on these three things, right? And it was probably the best thing that he did because now they were focused on making three good products instead of 50 shitty products, right? And I'm pretty sure he said something like that. I'm pretty sure he said something like, um, he'd rather make like three good products instead of 50 shitty products, right? He had a lot of profanity in his mouth. Let's just say that he cursed a lot. But he also like took shots at Microsoft and other companies for having crap products. But another thing that really sat up, oh yeah, wait, before I get to the next point, I wanted to get this across with the focus, right? I noticed this in my own life as well. I noticed that right now I noticed something that was holding me back is that I was trying to get good at too many things at once. I was working on like 7, 10 things at once, thinking that that's gonna make me better. And then I realized I was just like, I need to focus on fewer things, right? Instead of focusing on 10 things, focus on two, three, four of it, maybe even three at most, right? Probably preferably one if you've read the one thing, but focusing on fewer things instead of a bunch of things because you're going to spread yourself too short, right? You're going to overextend yourself. You don't want to overextend yourself, right? And how I was able to connect it. And then the next one is handling failure, right? Now, Steve Jobs, right? He was ousted from Apple, as I mentioned before, right? He created Next. Now he was ousted from Apple, right? Everyone in Apple, this company that he started, right? The company that he founded, he was ousted from it. He was betrayed, right? He was seen as too immature or too volatile, which was very true. He was very volatile, right? He gets ousted. He creates Next, right? He buys Pixar. He becomes a billionaire. Then Apple ends up taking him back anyway, right? And the point is, like, he didn't let the public failure discourage him. He also experienced a bunch of other failures that I did not mention, right? Like, he had a failed commercial that he got a lot of backlash for, but that didn't stop him, right? And the point that I'm making, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, is because I know a lot of people experience failure. Everyone experiences some form of failure, right? But you shouldn't let it discourage you because failure is part of the game. That's what happens. And what this made me think of, like Steve Jobs, it made me think, okay, if he freaking failed and he was embarrassed by millions of people. It wasn't even like it was on scale. Like he was embarrassed in front of millions of people basically, like publicly. And that didn't stop him from getting super successful. So, most likely your failures aren't on the scale of Steve Jobs. So, seriously, like, don't get discouraged by failure. I'll leave it at that. And then the next one, he leveraged the rivalry between him, Steve Jobs of Apple leveraged the rivalry between him and Bill Gates from Microsoft, right? And it kept them sharp. It kept them innovative. It pushed them. It pushed them. It pushed them to push the team. Like he knew that Microsoft was the leading um, tech company in at the time, right? In the 90s, right? I think it was in the 90s, and he knew he had to do something about it. He knew he had to step his game up. And the point is, right? I don't think Steve Jobs, I don't think Apple would be the company that they are if it wasn't for Microsoft, because he needed Bill Gates to be there. He needed Bill Gates and Microsoft to be there to push himself to get better, to keep himself sharp, right? And the point is, even like in general, when you have some sort of enemy or rival, that's what gets you to get out of the bed in the morning and to grind, to go to the gym, to do work, to build knowledge, whatever it is you're doing, to train on Christmas, to work on Christmas, to work on every holiday, to work on your birthday. Rivals, enemies push you to do that, right? Yeah. Like it's even more effective than having friends or having allies, right? And allies are great too, but sometimes it's more effective to say that you're someone telling you you're not good enough or showing you how not good enough you are than than someone telling you how great you are, right? And I thought that'd be something good to mention. But another quote that like really stood out with me, like overall in this book, like one of the quotes I even wrote it down, right? Steve Jobs said, "The people crazy enough to change the world are the ones who do." Right? The underlying meaning behind it, you kind of have to be kind of crazy to do something that's very uncertain. At least that's the way I'm thinking of it. Something that's uncertain, like a business, right? Anything like that. And maybe people are telling you like get a normal job or why are you doing that? Well, you shouldn't be doing that. It's not realistic, right? But if you're crazy enough to do something that most people aren't doing, you can achieve something. The payoff can be astronomical, right? And I highly recommend you read this book. I'm gonna be honest, it's a fat one. Let me pull it out here. It's huge. It's a fat book. It's a fat read, but I highly recommend you read it. It's a very good book. I'm gonna keep creating more content like this. Every book I read, I'm gonna talk about it with you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe. Take care.